to an unexpected live stream. It was one that I was hoping to be making today, but I wasn't sure until I saw the announcement video from Apple about the new iPad technology. And about 2/3 of the way through, they talked about the new Final Cut and Logic Pro. So, big Logic Pro announcement. Not a ton of information, but there's definitely some things we can talk about for a little bit. We're hoping to go about 30 minutes on this stream. And the biggest news is that Logic Pro 11 for Mac is coming out on the 13th, which is next week, right? So that's coming out on Monday. And Logic Pro for iPad 2 is coming out at the same time, and they seem to have identical feature sets. That's part of the ability for the software to go back and forth, the round trip feature functionality, and so that's pretty cool. It is a free update, and Logic Pro for Mac does not appear to be going to a subscription model. I know the crowds are going wild. Let's dive into some of the things they're talking about. I think this is one of the first presentations from Apple where they openly embrace AI as a terminology. They've been talking about all this other technology, the neural network and machine learning. But this time they're just like, you know what? We're going to do AI, and AI is going to be a part of these tools. So Logic Pro takes music making to the next level with new AI features. What we're getting essentially is an expansion of the drummer track, not just for drums. We are getting more features with drums. I can see from the images that we've got more control, more flexibility, more notation type tools. But then they're adding all these session players, and it's expanding to a bass player that's a session player AI created with some new bass instruments. And let's go down. I think we can actually look. So here's the bass player. So similar type controls and notation as the drummer, but some different stuff with it as well. Where is there's the words about it right there. It might be hard to read on the screen. This website is it's in the newsroom. So if you go to apple.com newsroom, you should be able to find the whole article. But what we're looking at with this is connection between the actual instruments. So they're going to play more as a unit and be able to go back and forth. We already had some of these features with the previous drummer in terms of the follow feature, but it looks like now we have more. And they're not just doing it like a partway thing. It looks like they have a pretty extensive set of things that you can do with it, plus you can customize it. But I'm excited to see how tightly integrated those are. If I look up at the drummer track right here, let me see if I can see. I saw it on one of their images. Maybe it's not on this one. But they actually showed in the drummer track that it was working with the bass player as well. Looks like some interesting new pattern functionality here. Okay, we'll get a little bit more as we see more with that. So I think I read that they have 6 new meticulously recorded instruments from acoustic to electric. So we're getting some new basses. The keyboard. So they have piano style keyboard. We're going to be talking about the chord track because they not only did they do this in terms of these instruments, but they actually enhanced the chord track, which I didn't see coming. But I'm really glad that they did. We'll look at what that looks like in a minute, but they're actually using the chord track now how I think that they originally wanted to use it, but they just didn't have the application for how to use it. So they had a chord track and you could do stuff with it. back in the day. And then it's still kind of there, but it doesn't really do anything. And now we get this functionality where you need to use the chord track in order to make all these instruments work together. So that sounds really interesting. With the keyboard, they're doing this even more in depth than I was expecting. There's multiple miking positions. There's the keyboard sounds that come with this. It seems like these instruments are going to be really high quality, and they really made a push to do that. And then I'm reading some of the comments. Plastodon can bet that some of the minor features we wanted are still not added, sadly. I don't know. So we're seeing just the big flashy things right now. We're not getting a release list. I bet you there's a ton of smaller things as well that are also going to be added. It's just that these are just the biggest ones. So next week on Monday, when this comes out fully, I'll do a full release video and go through all of the enhancements. There's probably going to be a huge list. I mean, this is 6 months since the last update, so they're probably fixed a bunch of things in addition to adding some of these new things. Okay, so after those 3 instruments, the bass, the keys, the drums, all enhanced, we didn't get something like a guitar or anything else, but just these main instruments. But maybe we'll get more of this in the future as well, now that they're really going down this road. So next thing we have would be the stem splitter. Everybody seems like they're getting stem splitting these days. Once again, Apple comes later to the party, but I'm hoping that it's going to be a really powerful version of it. It says it's powered by AI and M-series Apple Silicon. Stem splitter is lightning fast. Obviously, the video that they were making or released today about the iPad was all about the M4 chip, but we're not required to use the M4 chip on this. But I'm sure that they're hoping people will update to the new iPad Pro and use, new computer. But it looks like you will have to have silicon to do this particular thing. So you're not going to be able to do this with your older computers. And that's one of the big pushes, of course. Almost all the new main features are, when it says about powered by AI, I'm pretty sure that means that you have to have the Silicon Mac to do any of it. Let's see. So stem splitting lets you do vocals, drums, bass, and everything else. This looks a lot like what we got with FL Studio recently with their stem splitting. I wouldn't be surprised if it was even like, they just bought the same company or something. I don't know. We don't know yet where they're getting it from. If they developed it on their own, which is unlikely, or just bought some people who did it, and that's more likely, but we'll see. I'm excited to see how good it is. Obviously, their graphics there look super clean in terms of the splitting. Not a lot of bleed through. Just looking at the waveforms, who knows what that means. But that'll be cool. That'll be a useful tool in the toolkit. And Chimera is wondering if it's better than RX-10. Probably not. I mean, RX stuff is pretty good, so I doubt that it's better. But you never know. I mean, if they're really making this a big feature release, then maybe. But as we saw with something like Flex, and I still get a lot of comments on the channel from people who are like, Flex isn't as good as, and they say something else. Well, the truth is, Flex wasn't as good as many things. But every version, when they do a tweak and update it and add a little bit better processing and everything, it's gotten really good. And you can use it almost invisibly if you know how to do it. And so people who say Flex isn't as good as, I say, you know what? Maybe the others are still better, but the Flex pitch and Flex time and logic is pretty darn good. And the new pitch correction tool that uses the neural network, it sounds great. And if you use it in the right amount, I bet you that we could do some blind listening tests and you wouldn't be able to tell. It's that good these days. But there are other tools that are still improving and getting better too. So it's maybe the bar is just always moving. Okay, Chroma Glow is the next thing, built off of the concept of Chroma Verb. That's what they referenced. They said, we've had Chroma Verb, which, has revolutionized. I mean, go watch the video. It's kind of funny how much they talk, or the praise that they threw at Chroma Verb, which I really do like. I think Chroma Verb sounds terrific. But now we have this, which models the sound produced by a blend of the world's most revered studio hardware by leveraging AI and the power of the M series Apple Silicon. Woo! So you get 5 different saturation styles to add ultra realistic warmth, presence, and punch to any track. I'm not sure if I was thinking of like the top 5 things that I wanted in Logic. I'm not sure a saturation tool was on that list. Maybe somebody else can tell me if that was, something that they were looking at as that. But I'm assuming because that they did this, it's either a combination of all the other saturation things we've already had, maybe some of the stuff from the original Camel Audio things that we have now in Logic already, or just a new interface and a way to do it in a better way. But what's the new twist on this? I'm excited to see what that does. Because right now, a saturation tool is pretty static. The ones that we had in Logic previously, you put it on and it just sits there. Maybe these are doing things that are more dynamic across the spectrum as you play the music through it. So we'll see. That's the end of the list of the main things. Chroma Glow, stem splitting, the session players. And then we'll have to wait. I couldn't see. I looked through the images pretty briefly. Where did I see? Oh, I know. We have to go to the other page. That's why we have to do that. So if you go to the actual Logic product page, there are some additional things there. So let's go look at that page for a second. So the announcement has that stuff, but this had a little bit more. Let's scroll down. I think this is where I actually saw a couple of the things. So that's the bass interface. The plugin, that's a studio-based plugin on the top there. And then the actual bass player track down below, like the drummer track area, where it has like the amount, the swing, complexity. It's actually not great reading. Once again, Apple's making the interfaces with multiple shades of gray. Thank you. But a lot of playing styles and things up above, including the fretboard. And I mean, there's some really deep potential there to get custom bass sounds. Here's a little bit of what that looks like in terms of the actual track. So we have new region style, which is kind of cool. There's the keyboard. So left hand, right hand voicing and movement. I mean, dear God, I hope they set this up right and did it right. When the drummer track first came out, it felt so intuitive, and we've wanted more. So we don't know yet if they've actually given us additional styles of the drummer. And I'm hoping that that's just something that they're not talking about that's there. So some metal styles, some jazz styles, some other world instrument styles. Let's hope that they've expanded some of that too. It would be really ridiculous just to change the interface but give us all the same content for the drummer track when they're now giving us keys and bass. We'll see. Right there it says follow the bass player, so you can see that we have more integration right on the front of that. We'll see. Fill amount and fill complexity. That's so they're breaking out some of the features and giving us more. It looks like the little matrix is gone where you move it around, which is actually easily replaced by 2 sliders. But if you notice, when they do that, what they're really doing is making this iPad compatible. This probably is the iPad version where, no, it says that we're on the main Logic page, but they're making it iPad compatible. It looks like an iPad screen right now, but that's what that is. Instead of, they're trying to fit all the sliders that you would have on the iPad and make those two more unified in appearance, I'm sure. Here's the actual bass player. Cool, I guess, Neck volume, bridge volume, main volume, definition, muting, playing style, last played, rhythm, solo bass, treble. Could be interesting. There's the keyboard. This is the stereo mic A, stereo mic B, mono mic. It's just like, I'm getting good vibes from this. Okay, so here's the one image I saw from the chord track. So let's look at that for a second. I'm also looking at the comments a little bit. Okay, nothing. Good conversation over there. But this is the chord track. So we have the chord name, the root note, plus, actually it looks like you can break it down. Bass note, scale, MIDI input, preview. And then looks like you can select, I don't know if you can go sub bar. I'm sure you have to be able to with a chord track, but right now it's just showing it on each of the bar lines, the chords. Okay, so this is going to be how we control the AI performers on the keyboard and the studio bass. I think, I don't know. We'll see. Like we're talking about in the chat right now, these are things we've already had in other workstations. We've had a chord track in Logic. It just didn't do anything really. And so now it's adding all this stuff. I will say, my guess is that with these session players that it's going to be better than a lot of other tools. But here's the thing. Everybody who's watching this right now, put in the chat if what you were dying for are session players in your songs. I will be using the bass probably, but I play keyboard. So I'll be doing my own keyboard stuff still. I don't play drums, so I've always liked the drummer. And I can play bass on a keyboard, but my bass lines are pretty rudimentary. And so maybe this will give me some additional things, but unless they give us like 1,000 ways that piano keyboard can do things differently, how many people's songs are going to slowly start to sound the same when AI is playing the same for everybody's projects, right? So we'll see. And again, we're just seeing the big flashy thing so far. I bet you there's going to be a number of other functionality changes as we do this. So I'm expecting that we'll have a bunch of other nuanced things. And it says right here, your own personal studio assistants, powerful tools that are always ready for augmenting your artistry, whether it's learning how to mix or warming up your mix. What does that? Okay, so we have the stem splitter. We already talked about briefly. Nothing new with that. Here's the Chroma Glow. I got to tell you, I don't see... maybe it sounds remarkable. They're putting pitch correction in here, which is fine because that does use the same neural network, which is great. The mastering assistant, which does as well. Here's something that they didn't put anywhere else. Although we've had Smart Tempo, but this one, it looks like it could maybe be expanded. Stay in sync with Smart Tempo, an AI-driven collection of tools. So AI-driven is the first time they've ever talked about smart tools in that way, that lets you record and mix without worrying about tempo, produce like a DJ as Smart Tempo analyzes imported audio and magically syncs it magically. So now Logic also has magic in it. Just reading what it says, syncs it to the project tempo using flex time and go ahead, record guitar without a metronome. Smart Tempo can analyze your recording and make the project tempo follow the natural timing of your performance. I think that should have been the headline, that Logic now has magic in it. I'm just being a smart ass. That's okay. Spatial audio is the next thing that they list. Awesome. Maybe that's all we're getting in terms of the new stuff, but everything else looks about. Sound packs, those are old news. Let's see if there's anything else on here. I'm sure there's going to be some other stuff, but compositions and performances. Cool. That does not look new. I'm just seeing if there's anything else on this page. The Flex stuff was one of the smarter things they incorporated. I like that. I've always liked it. It sounds way better now than it did at the beginning. I think that's all they're showing us. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what else is new. Oof. And Q says Smart Tempo sounds like it's coming to Ableton. They're always coming at each other. They now look more like than ever before. These two tools. They're not that different. They're not the same, but they're getting closer. Every time Ableton comes out with a new update, they're throwing on things like that Logic has. So it's not, I don't think Logic's coming at Ableton as much as they're all just trying to get everybody. So I was reading this thing about zero-sum philosophy or whatever. The real truth is we do have new people coming up into the industry, and students in high schools and middle schools are more interested in some of this than ever before. But we also have people who are retiring and getting out of the industry. So it's like a zero-sum game, approximately, for people using software. And so they're all competing for the same group of people. It's not like we have new users invented every day. And so, they're trying to fit the needs of what people want in the moment. And this, I think, is actually somewhat smart in a way, these session players, because that's the one way you can grow an audience and user base who aren't musicians, right? It's by giving them musicians. So for those who are musicians and won't ever use these tools, that's great. Don't use them. But maybe you'll find a time when you actually might use them, or, want to put together an idea for a song, but don't have the time to play it all the way through. Let's see. Plastodon says, question, have you ever had luck with a tempo detector? It's never worked for me no matter what version. So the tools that I use, a couple different of the tempo tools all the time. One of them is I use where you can import an audio file and have it detect the tempo of the file that's imported. I've used that on a number of occasions, and it seems to work well. Oftentimes, I have to go into the editor and actually tell it which is the downbeat, because if there's a little bit before the downbeat or something there, then it has a hard time knowing which one is just one. And so you go in there and assign one, and then I just check all the rest. I've used the beat. I can't even remember what it's called right this second. It's too early in the morning. But where you can actually go and you just figure out the tempo manually, but you drag the little lines across. Somebody will tell me what that is. I've used that in the past a lot, but the import function just works really well. Sometimes I've tried playing a song without a metronome and have it do the analysis, and I find that 50% of the time that works and 50% of the time it doesn't. But most of the time that's just because my ability as a player. I'm sure if I recorded like a pro player that it would do it, but a pro player can also play to a metronome. So I don't know what the difference is. Let's see. Saw something on there about learning how to mix. Would be really cool to have them have an AI mixing system. I don't think that that's what that means. I think what that's talking about is they have those tutorials and they're incorporating those tutorials into Logic. They have had them, so you can actually go and do them. I think that's the learning how to mix part rather than the AI mixing system, because I think that that would have been on the screen as one of the main features if they had. I definitely saw that too, but I think that's just their tutorials that they're touting, which I think in Logic, the current version of Logic, there's a whole set of tutorials. Trying to see what else. So far, this is from SB. Is Logic 11 going to be subscription based? And there's no mention of that at all. It says free. So we're not actually going to be doing a payment. For those joining, I'll go back to the other page for a second. This is the actual newsroom announcement. It's coming Monday. This coming Monday on May 13th. It is says somewhere that's a free update. I'm sure it's right in front of me. Oh, maybe it's at the bottom. So, yeah, so Logic 11 is available May 13 as a free update for existing users and $199, so $200 for non-users, not a subscription model. It requires Ventura 13.5 or later. And then the Logic Pro for iPad 2, which has all of these same things, is still $4.99 per month or $50 per year, with a 1-month free trial for new users. And that requires iPad OS 17.4 or later. However, the Ventura 13.5 is doesn't mean everything's going to work on your computer. I mean, that's for sure. Let's see, what do I have on mine? I'm looking right now. Yeah, so there's no guarantee. So we're on Sonoma, obviously, right now. And Ventura is the one previous to that. But you might have to, I know that some of these features say that they're M chip powered, silicon powered, which means likely that you'll have to have the Silicon Mac in order to use them. Let's see. Robra 2000 says, would be really cool for them to add a system for this where you can just shift the mix for more drums or vocal prominence, like with the trackpad thing. Oh, yeah, I mean, there's so many cool ideas that they could be doing. So we'll see. A Mayland says, sounds like a letdown to me. Time will tell, and I agree with that. We'll see when the actual release comes out if they fix any of the existing bugs or added anything else. It's like there's so many things that could be updated that they're not talking about, because why would they talk about them as a product release? Like an update to the UltraBeat interface is not going to make the news rounds, but there are people who are like, I wish that we could have an update to UltraBeat, or some of the other plugin interfaces that are still the old school plugins. They're not going to talk about that on the press release because they're not cool new things like AI, and AI is going to hit the news cycle. Excuse me. Need a glass of water. But AI right now is the buzzword. So they're doing this smartly. And which things in Ableton, and maybe any of you who are Ableton users can say this, which Ableton features are AI powered features, right? I don't know. Pro Tools doesn't have really any AI features. They may have some stuff with the conversion of audio to MIDI and things that I don't think they're using AI though. That's just like programming, smart programming. And so now they can come up and say, look at our AI powered workstation. ahead of some of the others. So maybe that's the whole point of this for the moment. And then the rest of us are like, cool, thank you. Thank you for giving us a bass player. And all the bass players in the world are like, what? Why? I had one thing that I was good at. Now I don't, they don't need me anymore. So, as somebody who's more keyboard focused and does a lot of songwriting type stuff for this channel, I can't tell you how glad I am that I don't have to work with bass players and drummers anymore, right? I mean, sorry. But I didn't need, I wanted a better bass line without having to hire a bass player. I mean, that's sad. But at the same time, it's like all of the people who made horse-drawn carriages were super upset when cars were invented. And the car makers were happy. It's just like we change things around. I don't know if that's a good attitude or not. They do. Jimmy Fontanez says they need a session guitar player, and I agree with that. In fact, I swear I saw somewhere that they said something about strings. Where did I see that? I don't know. I don't think they would have another instrument that we didn't even see. Oof. We've had string instrument things like studio strings on iPad and GarageBand that actually had playability on them, but we've never really gotten that in Logic. So I don't know if they've just let it behind or they're still working on it. We'll see. I know. DM Punk says AI powered keys and bass. Yuck, bro. I gotta say, this is going to help a certain demographic of Logic users. And then Ricky says AI and Ableton sample replacement. Cool. So there are examples. I wasn't saying there weren't. I'm just saying that's what Logic is doing right now, is saying that this is AI, and I just wasn't familiar enough with the current versions of Ableton to know. So if that's the case, then cool. And then some dude says, and that's, the new additional features will be announced. They also describe Drummer as already existing AI. That's a good question. What is the definition of AI in this situation, right? What is AI when it comes to music production? I don't know. But maybe this has always been AI all along in some way. And they're just like, well, the definition of AI, this fits into it, and now we're going to put it. I guess it is in a way, because you put up that stuff and it makes decisions for you. You have to pick from the parameters, which drummer, which kit, and then it makes the decision. So artificial intelligence actually fits the definition of what the drummer's been doing. Let's see. Now that we have the chord track that's updated, and we have the keys, which I couldn't dig in enough with the time I've had since this came out, if that's going to include different types of keyboards. But wouldn't that be awesome to have a synth player that can do just like follow the chords and do some parts? That would be interesting. And then you can layer all the cool stuff on top. And then LA Winter says strings and horns will be added in the future for sure. They have to be. I mean, they're laying the foundation here. They've got like I said, was saying a second ago, they got the chord track and these other instruments, and then they can lay these in, and all of a sudden it becomes a whole thing with all the instruments. At some point, you're going to be able to say, make me a song in this style and genre, and it'll just do all the parts for you, right? I mean, there's nothing stopping them from doing that. I don't think that's a good place to go in terms of creativity and artistry. But you don't have to use any of this stuff. That's the best part. These are just tools in the toolkit that you might need at some point for some reason. Environment 2.0. Yeah, right. Mayland. If anything, Logic Pro 11, you won't even be able to open the environment anymore. I mean, that's where we've gone. You can't even find a menu option for it anymore. It's there, but we'll see if it's gone. It may be finally gone. We'll see. Let's see. A couple other comments. I missed the beginning of the stream. Is this actually going to be a version number update? This is officially being called Logic Pro 11. Logic Pro for Mac 11. So we've actually made it to 11 at this point. We'll see, in addition to the session instruments, the stem extract, the Chroma Glow, what else they add. We won't know until we actually get the release notes and be able to download it. And it is a free update for Logic. LA Winter, it says on there for the stem extract, just FYI, that it does say powered by silicon. Let me see where was that? Oh, there it is. So it says, with these tracks separated, it's easy to apply effects, add new parts, or change the mix. Powered by AI and M-series Apple Silicon. But I don't know, because then it says stem splitter is lightning fast. My guess is that it'll be silicon only, but I don't know that. Just like spatial audio is silicon only, and some of the features of the mastering assistant are silicon only. And so that, I think, is where we may be headed with that. Ugh, one of my monitors just like... I love Apple products when monitors just go off for no reason. And then Placidon says 22 years before version 12. I tend to, this is what we're looking at, right? 10 years about since. This does not feel like a Logic Pro 11, FYI. This doesn't feel like it's a fully fleshed out, brand new, shiny version 11. Although what they're saying is this is version 11 with all these new AI tools. I suspect that the next 5 years will be focused on AI and the tools. And Ellie Winter, I hope so. Maybe it'll just be slower in Intel Max. Maybe. We'll see. I'm guessing that they're finding ways to try to get people to update. It may backfire, but you never know. Okay, I was going 30 minutes. We've gone almost 40. I think I'm going to pull the plug because there's not much else to talk about until we know more. I'll be analyzing all these pages and seeing if we can determine anything. And then maybe another video before Monday. But my guess is that Monday we'll have a number of content things coming out. And so until then, hope this was informational. Great conversation in the chat. And yeah, I'll catch you on the flip side.